Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Jordan Bateman, Vice President of Communications and Marketing for the Independent Contractors and Business Association in BC. His website, icba.ca. Welcome back to the show, Jordan.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Jordan, the coronavirus, I'm just calling it C-19 to shorten everything down because that's what we do in the English language instead of COVID-19. Anyway, this virus, what kind of an effect is it having on the construction business?
Well, we had a very interesting situation happen last week in Burnaby. There's a big project. They're calling it the City of Lougheed. It's right near Lougheed Mall. And one of the workers, there's about 500 construction workers on site at this point. One of them has some flu-like symptoms. It's coughing, having trouble to breathe, all that stuff. So they do what they're supposed to do. They go report to the construction safety officer, who's someone with a little bit of medical training or a little bit of first aid training, and reports these symptoms. Out of an abundance of caution, the CSO, there's actually a couple of them on site, got together, looked them over, and then called an ambulance and sent them to the hospital in order to get checked for the coronavirus. Well, what happened then was those CSOs have to go into immediate quarantine because until the test comes back. So they went home to go into voluntary quarantine. And it's a sign of the system works. Like, these folks were doing their job, and they knew the price would be that they would have to go into this quarantine after, and they did. But with no CSOs on site, construction had to stop on the project. So for about a day and a half, there was no work on the project. Everyone went home and or went to other projects, and then came back later. By Sunday, it turns out the test came back negative on the person who's sick. They don't have the coronavirus. They were just battling the flu. The CSOs were then able to leave quarantine, and everyone was back on site by Monday. But it's an example of, how this could have far-reaching effects into any workplace or industry. Reinforces the need, and I think the BC government's done a fairly good job of this so far, reinforces the need to have very speedy testing on this because, we are talking about major inconvenience for the, for people involved. So, we're a construction association. We don't pretend to be health experts. We're doing what most agencies like ours do, or associations like ours do, rely on the experts, the health experts, and try to communicate that information along to our members. But we were pretty happy with, that the system worked in this case, and hopeful that it does not become a bigger issue. It shouldn't. Construction seems like a pretty low-risk activity for coronavirus.
Mm-hmm. Now, they've found that the coronavirus is already mutated, and it's got a stronger version and a weaker version now, which will complicate things.
Yes, there's going to be lots of complications as we go along, I'm sure. Construction, very low-risk business, right? I mean, most workers on site are wearing gloves, wearing hard hats, many wear goggles, wearing heavy clothes, especially, when the weather isn't great, not a lot of exposed skin. Many of them wear masks for various, parts of what they're doing. You're also it's not like in an office space where you're right next to each other, or, you're actually sharing very little space. Plus, you're in the elements. There's wind and rain and all those things that kind of will keep the virus moving along. So we don't perceive a lot of disruption to the construction industry from direct effects. But we're certainly seeing an effect, as far as supply chains and what all that means.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after this.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Getting back to supply chains, China supplies a lot of the world's rebar, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. In fact, I was reading this morning the Wuhan province China is a huge supplier of steel, especially for Western Canada and the Western United States. But the Wuhan province within China is the 5th or 6th largest steel producing part of that country. So, obviously things have kind of ground to a halt there. They're not working in the same way they were, not, outputting steel. This is causing a slowdown in supply chains that's being felt across North America.
And what kind of an impact have we had from all the rail blockades? How is that impacting your supply chain?
Yeah, it's hard to diagnose exactly how much of it is because of the coronavirus and how much of it is because of the blockades. Certainly the blockades are having a negative effect, especially in the slowdown of unloading ships in the port of Vancouver. So, we've been doing member meetings. We've been talking to a number of our members. Glaziers report that glass is very slow to come off the ships. They're a little bit falling behind now in glass supply in the Lower Mainland. Steel, we talked about rebar falling behind in the Lower Mainland. And then, like odd things, like we talked to a lighting company. They're doing a kind of custom lighting wall / almost art installation. It's going to be beautiful for a project in downtown Vancouver, but it's now on hold, waiting for these very specific parts to arrive from Asia. So, all over the industry, we're feeling slowdowns, and I think that the longer these protests go on, the longer the coronavirus hinders production, the more we're going to feel it.
Now, we're hearing more and more from the native community, the Wet'suwet'en in northern BC, where this gas pipeline will be built. The elected band councils voted for it. They had about an 80-85% approval. They're getting community projects now that have been put on hold because the pipeline wasn't being built. Do you know if construction got underway on Monday?
We've not heard, actually, what's going on in those parts now. I mean, Coastal Gaslink is a lot more than just the portion that goes through the area that the hereditary chiefs are arguing about. So, construction does continue in other parts of the line, but we've not heard specifically. Although the fact that we haven't heard makes me think that probably construction has not restarted, because certainly the hereditary chiefs will be all over the media screaming and yelling about that.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, oil and gas is a huge supplier of revenue for not just provincial governments in the West, but also for the federal government. Do you think its current policies are encouraging that development and the continued flow of government revenues from it?
Well, oil and gas is, you're absolutely right, an incredible driver of the economy. We do not see a lot from the Trudeau government as far as supporting it. In fact, breaking news I've just had handed to me even while I was doing this interview. The government of Alberta is referring. Let's take a step back. Before the last election, the Trudeau government brought in a couple of bills, Bill C-48 and Bill C-69. Bill C-69 essentially, or Bill C-48 banned oil tanker traffic off the coast of northern British Columbia. And then Bill C-69 was a new way to regulate Canadian energy projects that most in the industry, well, everyone in the industry, and most construction associations believe will be very it'll be impossible to meet the standards that they're putting out. So essentially it suffocates new oil and gas projects before they even start. Jason Kenney's government in Alberta, the province of Alberta, decided to challenge this on constitutional grounds. They went to the Court of Appeal of Alberta for that. And we're in the stage of different groups intervening. Our group, the Independent Contractors and Business Association, is one of the groups that requested leave to intervene in this and basically argue against the Trudeau government's acts. Just received word here, the Canadian government, the Trudeau government, did not want us to intervene. They opposed our intervention. They only opposed 2 of the 12 or so groups that wanted to oppose, ours and the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. But the judge says, the judge has just ruled that we can intervene, that the Trudeau government is incorrect in trying to keep us out of this. And we'll be making an argument next month in Alberta court on the importance of making sure oil and gas actually happens. So, there's a little bit of breaking news on the podcast. That's great news because it gives, we're hopeful the court takes a look at these and says it's wrong of the federal government to try to essentially outlaw oil and gas or try to choke to death through bureaucracy and red tape oil and gas projects that bring so much value and so many jobs and so much economic spin-off, not just for Calgary or Alberta, not just for British Columbia, but for First Nations and for everyone who participates in it.
Well, I mean, I've seen documents and reports that if you start building something in BC or Alberta, it provides jobs right across the country. There's tiny suppliers that may just bring in washers or nuts and bolts, but if you're a small factory in Hamilton or something, that could mean the difference between closing and continuing your business.
Oh, exactly. Spinoff is unbelievable. We don't think of Vancouver, for example, as a mining town, but mining is a huge industry and a huge job driver, even here in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver. You don't think of Surrey as a forestry town, and yet, Surrey definitely was sent reeling when 500 sawmill jobs disappeared in the current forestry downturn. Those were direct jobs by folks in Surrey. I remember being on council in Langley Township, and the folks coming from Surrey Fraser Docks and from the Port of Vancouver, talking about just how many jobs were reliant, how many jobs in Langley, miles away from the water, were reliant on those ports. And, our economy today, Canadian economy, is becoming more and more integrated across the country. There's more and more cross-provincial trade. That's a good thing. It's good for all parts of Canada to participate in this. But, at the same time, we need to make sure that we're always encouraging the projects that really start these things out, which is often resource-based.
Mm-hmm. Now, Teck said it wasn't going to go ahead with its frontier oil sands development in northern Alberta. Was that political or the fact that oil prices right now really aren't geared to a project that probably needed $90 a barrel oil plus?
Well, you can only take what you read in their letter, and they certainly laid out some of the political challenges. Look, we in Canada make it so difficult for folks to invest their money here. It's unbelievable. Before this project, the head of RBC said that about $100 billion in oil and gas projects had been canceled or gone south instead of being done here in Canada. that kind of capital flight is absolutely staggering and should terrify those of us who are worried about a long-term sustainable Canadian economy.
Mm-hmm. Now, taking a look at the Conservative leadership race, anybody there stand out, and have they mentioned any policies that might be good for the construction industry?
Well, it's definitely a two-horse race. It's McKay and O'Toole. None of these other candidates are going to get off the launching pad, it doesn't look like. So between those two, there isn't a huge amount of difference. They're both saying the right things as far as wanting to encourage more business, cutting red tape, looking at our tax competitiveness, especially compared to the United States. So we're cautiously optimistic. We're actually in the process of putting together a brief that we'll send to both candidates, explaining some of the construction industry's biggest concerns and places where we think that there can be great improvement over what the Trudeau Liberals are doing. But at this point, they're kind of even. Politically speaking, I think McKay has a pretty substantial lead over O'Toole, but O'Toole is closing that gap every day. And the question for McKay is, how can he hold him off before the vote actually happens later this year?
Have those same proposals been sent to the Trudeau government asking for changes that could encourage construction?
Yeah, absolutely. We put out we worked with other chapters, not really chapters, but affiliates, groups that are like ICBA in other provinces before the last election, put out an election, essentially 5 or 6 point plan to all the different parties. Only the Conservatives took us up on it, but unfortunately they didn't win. So you can only present these things to everyone and just hope that common sense prevails and that these different parties will start looking at our suggestions.
And getting back to your court challenge now, was that both to the tanker ban and the severe restrictions on oil and gas development? Yeah,
exactly. And the Alberta, the Attorney General of Alberta is kind of leading the charge on this. Along with Ontario and Saskatchewan, they are also in favor. And so we're just waiting to see now what will happen. We all have to file our stuff. Then the Alberta Court of Appeal will make their ruling later this year, and then I think everyone assumes that it'll end up in the Supreme Court of Canada after that.
Jordan, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me.
My guest has been Jordan Bateman, Vice President of Communications and Marketing for the Independent Contractors and Business Association. If you have any questions for Jordan or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.